If you want to learn more about recruiting, be sure to check out the HVAC Uncensored podcast. I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned in the class that I went to in Houston. One thing is that, for one, we're just not spending money on recruiting in our businesses, and I'm guilty. I mean, we spend all this money on our regular marketing, but we're not spending money on recruiting. It's something that should be a part of our budget for the year, because we always need to be recruiting. One of the things that I've learned also that's a real quick thing that I thought was a great idea is just to put on your business card. We are growing fast. We need help. If you know anybody, send them here or give them a link or have them call a number. Whatever the case, every person you meet, send that, because we're not always recruiting straight out of the industry. We're sometimes recruiting from other places that may be similar. And so it's just nice to keep the word out there that you're hiring, because we should be hiring at all times. And the reason for that is because, people are just hard to find. And if you listen to the podcast, you'll find out why. It's such a tiny percentage that are actually looking for jobs. One thing that I did learn is to be sure to have a careers page or landing, page within your website. And I thought that was awesome. I actually have a structured breakdown that I'll put in one of my courses to help you figure out what to put on that I learned. But also, this was eye-opening. It's so important to hire good, because 30% of businesses go bankrupt because of internal theft. And I thought, wow, that's like 3 out of 10 go bankrupt because people are stealing from them. So that's why it's so important to hire good people that are honest. And that was like the number one priority, is that they are honest people. Above everything else is that they're honest. So one of the questions that they said you should always ask somebody in an interview is, tell me about a time where you had an achievement or you did something great for the customer, or whatever the case. Ask that question, but then it's the follow-up question, is you say, now who can I call to validate that? And he said that he's had people like stand up and say, well, if you need to call somebody, I don't need to work here because you don't believe me. Well, you're right. That's what he said he would tell him. You're right. I don't want you to work here if you can't tell me that, because it's just a simple case of what he's found in the corporate world and helping people develop a recruiting program, is that people just lie. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's just true. People will lie. They'll tell you what you want to hear while you're while you're interviewing, and the reason you don't want to just automatically trust them. Personality is great. They have to have a jiving personality, a personality that you can jive with, and everything, that you can obviously tell pretty quick if you can get along with somebody. But personality is not the only thing. It's really about honesty. Let's see. Honesty was number 1. Performance mindset was number 2. Willingness to learn, number 3. The know-how, like do they have the hard skills? And then personality was number 4, actually. It was that far down on the list because it's more important to have somebody who's willing to learn and has a performance mindset than to get somebody who, just has a great personality. One thing that I thought was eye-opening to me is that 90% of jobs are taken by people who already have a job. He said when it comes to a team, 1 out of 5 will always get the job done. They make things go right, and they're willing to provide. They're willing and proud. Sorry. And then you always have 1 out of 5 that will make it that will not make it go right, and they're going to make it hard to manage. When it comes to hiring people, also, if they have a very low willingness but very high competence, those are the exact people you do not want to hire, and I've experienced that myself. You do not want to hire those people. They will not listen. They're not open to changing anything about the way they do, and it winds up just being a headache for you and the company. You want to benchmark every position within the company, like who's doing the best in sales, who's doing the best in service, like who has the most skills, like who's doing the best in install. Benchmark what they're doing and then set that as your standard. or give them a goal to hit even higher and give them some tools and some training to get higher. But you got to have a benchmark to set a standard. Let's see what else we talked about here. Be sure to celebrate victories and wins with your company. Make it visible, so you want to share those stories on Facebook. It said 63% of companies will give their money to companies who are socially responsible, which means you're giving back to the community. But I know a lot of us do this, and I do it too, but I don't want to brag about it. I've always, I've give without wanting to receive anything back. And regardless of that statement, you should post that stuff because you're being responsible with the money you make. And people like to see that. 63% of people is what he's found. I think he said Warren Buffett says that, you really want these three things. You want honesty, somebody who's bright and knows how to do their job, and somebody who's a hard worker. But if they're only bright and they're only a hard worker, they'll screw you because they're not honest. So you have to have honest people, bottom line. 58% of businesses go bankrupt because of not managing people. And people always dictate the conditions more than you. One thing that I thought was interesting is, the normal job search is 2 to 3 months. So if you recognize within your company that productivity is going down, effort's going down, focus goes down, and it gets started and progressively gets worse, it's probably because one of my guys just got a sell. They're celebrating out there. The thing is we have to be aware that this is happening and get them good or get them gone. That's what Ellen Rohr says, which means just we got to fix the problem. Hey, what's going wrong? What do you not like? How can we change this? Or go ahead and let them go if they're actively searching for another job. I totally agree with all that. So we got to be visible, got to be competitive with our offers to attract good people. Ultimately, we want to attract them. We don't want to have to go search for them. And that's where posting more stuff on social media and stuff and being socially responsible, showing our victories, some of our victories, our wins. If the team goes out to celebrate, be sure to post some pictures and maybe a short video on that, and tell your customers who are actually on your Facebook page and like your Facebook page why you're doing it. Hey, we hit a milestone and we're happy about it and we're celebrating. But just be sure to share that. And let's see. Ultimately, because of the reason of not hiring on personality, he says the root word of that is like personae, Personae, which equals mask. Just means that's the original root word, is what he said. I haven't not looked this up, so I'm just going off what he said, but you really have to just observe people to detect integrity. Guys, I hope this helped in your journey to find good people for your business, and be sure to go listen to Patrick Long. He owns bizpal.org. He's got a really cool thing. If you go to bizpal.org, bizpal.org, and you can get his download, which will help you write good, people producing ads when you're actually actively hiring. So be sure to check that out. Check out the podcast. Great information there. It makes you really get a better grasp and understanding of why there's such a shortage of people in our industry. So, or what those numbers actually are. So, guys, I hope this served you. Please subscribe to my channel. Please download, listen to the podcast, HVAC Uncensored, and whatever you do, go make money.